It's a brand new week, which means new workshop agendas, and though I did previously touch upon it in my starting out guide, it's complicated enough that it deserves its own video. So if you're looking for how you should be setting up your workshop in a given week, here's the guide for you. Starting off, my first piece of advice comes to rest days. I highly recommend that you make one of your rest days the first day of a given season. Doing this ensures that you have the most amount of information when it comes to making your crafts, as you can rely on the predicted demand from the previous season, but by making the first day of the new season a rest day, you'll have the full information of your supply and demand chart. The only reason I didn't do that this week is because I was desperate to hit rank 10 without having to gather like 2,000 items. But now that we have our current information for our supply and demand chart, that's what we want to look at before we actually start doing our crafts. There are two things that you're wanting to look for on your supply and demand chart. You're looking for the item that you're going to end your week with, and you're looking for the items that you're going to start your week with. Now let's start with the item that we're going to be ending our week with. For me, this is going to be the shark oil, because it's an 8-hour craft that is very popular, low supply, and skyrocketing demand shift. That means by the time we get to the end of the week, it'll be very popular with a non-existent supply, which will be a massive increase to its overall price. Now that we figured out how we're going to end our week, we need to start thinking about how we're going to start our week. And we want to do that by finding 2 4-hour crafts, ideally popular, that are in the same category. Now the reason it's important that we get 4-hour crafts is because these are going to be our groove generators. What is a groove generator? Well, groove is a resource that can be gained by doing different crafts. For example, by crafting these eggs, I generate 3 groove. But if I were to immediately craft 3 more eggs, I would generate no extra groove. So I have to craft these knives to generate more groove, which will then allow me to go back to crafting eggs. I'm going to repeat this for the rest of the day, and I'll do it for the next day as well. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to max out my groove as fast as possible, because groove is one of the most important resources when it comes to how much your items are going to be worth, as it simply increases how much they're going to be sold for. And the reason you want them to be in the same category is because that's how you get efficiency bonus. You see, if you craft one item and then craft another item that is in the same category that isn't the same item, you'll get an efficiency bonus. And what that does is increase the yield of that craft by 1. So normally when you craft something, you only get 1 item. If you have an efficiency bonus, you get 2 at no extra cost. Getting efficiency bonuses is by far the most important thing to do when it comes to making profit, because it effectively doubles your profit because you're getting double the items. For every craft you do, you should always have an efficiency bonus. So we know what our first 2 days are going to be because there are groove generators, and we know what our last 2 days are going to be because there are big ticket items. So what about that weird spot in the middle? Well, you kind of want to use it as a secondary money making day, because it's a bit too early to start on your big ticket item because you want the supply to be non-existent. So now we're going to go back to our supply and demand chart and look for another popular 8-hour craft. And then we're going to create a 4, 6, 6, 8 craft. What that is we want 1 4-hour, 2 6 hours, and then ending on that 8-hour we've chosen. Now we want each one of these to be in the same category. Of course, like when doing any crafts, we want to make sure that each one of these stages links into one another with an efficiency bonus. For example, the item that I chose to be my 3rd day would be the bronze sheep, which is furniture and metalworking. So I have to somehow get to that with my other 3 items. I started with rope as my 4-hour craft because it not only has good popularity, but good supply as well. I also knew that it would be easy enough to chain into a 6-hour, which I chose to be the cavalier's hat, since they both share that textile category. After my cavalier's hat, I went to the bronze barbet because they both share the attire category. And since the bronze barbet falls into the metalworkings category, it leads to my sheep, ensuring that I have efficiency bonuses for all of my crafts. Now that we're done with our 3rd day, we move on to our 4th and 5th, our big ticket days. And we're going to be repeating what we just did with a 4, 6, 6, 8 craft, ending with our big ticket item. For me, this is going to be the shark oil. Now, an important tip that I have when it comes to actually trying to build together the categories and the efficiency bonuses is try to work backwards, and don't get hung up on one category too much. I kind of fell into this trap where I was trying to put together my entire craft using only the marine merchandising and sundries categories. But both of those categories are kind of weak this week, so I had to kind of change what I was thinking. So what I did is I started with my shark oil and looked at the marine merchandising category. So I went to my supply and demand chart and looked at the items available in the categories that I'm looking for, and I noticed that the essential drought was decent enough yield, but more importantly, it also unlocked the concoction category for me, which had much better yields for this week. So from there, I realized that I could go into the vegetable juice and the potion, both of which had better yields overall than my other option. One last tip that I have for you is be very conscious of the resources that you're using. Something that I realized after completing my agenda and looking at my allocated resources is that I wouldn't actually have the necessary eggs and claws to finish my second groove day, and because of this I had to go back and change it to something that I would be able to accomplish, which in this case actually came out likely better. So once you finish your weekly agenda, go back and look at your allocated resources and see what you need. And anytime you do an upgrade for your island that requires you to use resources, or anytime you craft, say, nets or food, to be cautious, you want to go back, look at your allocated resources, and make sure that nothing's gonna be missed. And that's about everything you really need to know about your weekly workshop agenda. All that's left now is for you to wait to actually reap those yields, and then have to spend it all on expanding your island. Have fun!